Hello and welcome to Paydirt TV. I'm Dominic Piper. Today I'm joined by Sean Werner, Managing Director of Syrah Resources Limited. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Dominic. Appreciate the time.
Sean, it's been a real turnaround for the company in the first part of 2021. You've switched the mining back on at your Balama project in Mozambique, graphite project in Mozambique. But intriguingly as well, you're making the leap to downstream anode production through your facility in the US. It's a big jump for the company, isn't it, becoming a downstream producer?
Yeah, it's certainly something that we've been fully focused on for more than 5 years. So we've made outstanding progress now to become the first vertically integrated and large-scale producer of natural graphite active anode material outside of China. And the US facility has been in development now for 4 years. So we recently announced the first integrated production of natural graphite active anode material out of Vidalia. And it's been a really important step for us in terms of meeting battery specifications for that material and engaging further in the supply chain with the objective of getting the final investment decision for the expansion in the second half of this year.
Traditionally, Australian miners haven't always made or wanted to make themselves into downstream processing manufacturers. What was the rationale behind Syrah's decision to go down this route?
A number of factors, I think. Firstly, a lot of this production capacity is in Asia. In fact, 100% of the precursor capacity for anode material is in China. There are some active anode material producers in Japan and Korea, but they're 100% reliant on supply of natural graphite precursor from China. So we certainly saw a significant opportunity in the US and Europe as battery manufacturing capacity was increasing to provide a localized source of supply. I think it's also important that whilst there is some technological development required here, it really is further processing of the natural graphite material through spherical shaping and milling, purification, and then coating and carbonisation through a furnace. So if that could be done on site at Mozambique, we would do as much of that value add processing there as possible. But we saw a fantastic opportunity in the States with that localised supply, and we're really pleased with how the project is progressing now that we're producing that material.
You mentioned you're happy being in the US. We've seen in the last week President Biden mentioned that the United States is looking for allies to supply greater amounts of the raw materials that go into EVs. Have you attracted a lot of attention from US investors on the fact that you've based your anode facility in the country?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the announcements from the US government have been very positive over the last couple of years, despite the change in administration, which has only served to further advance that focus. We've seen a lot of investor interest, customer interest, and government interest in the facility. And I think the focus on critical minerals supply and control over that supply as battery manufacturing capacity doubles year on year at the moment in the US is incredibly important. So the fact that we have the world's largest natural graphite production facility in Mozambique and vertically integrating that through the processing facility in the US is seen as really positive in terms of providing that supply on the ground in the US.
As you mentioned, to be a fully integrated producer of anode material, you need the graphite up front, and you have that in, as you say, the world's largest natural flake graphite deposit in Balama in Mozambique. The mine was closed for a period while prices were struggling and you had some challenges there as well. You started ramp up again in March. How are things progressing at Balama?
Yeah, they're progressing really well. And, the temporary suspension that we took in March 2020 through to restart decision in February 2021 was based on a combination of market conditions and the impacts of COVID. And we've seen both of those things improve considerably, obviously enabling the restart decision in February. What's really important to understand is that we did not put the plant on care and maintenance. We kept it in temporary suspension. We were running the plant periodically. We maintained the right level of staffing to come back out of that. So when we made the decision to restart, we actually were able to produce within a month of that decision. And the ramp up now is really focused on matching that demand increase that is really strongly coming through from EVs, anode production, and down into the natural graphite demand, particularly in China.
In that 12-month period, have you had a chance to refine the cost base and refine some of the engineering challenges at the mine? Is it coming into this new period of production looking at better operation?
Certainly from an operational perspective, we were very happy with how Balama was performing at the back end of 2019 as we started to moderate production. So it was a real shame at the time that market conditions didn't allow us to continue to see that improvement in production performance. So from a production perspective, we're really pleased with how things have evolved. We did take the opportunity through the period to refine the cost base. We reduced the cost base by 20 to 25%, and we've been able to implement the vast majority of those measures through the period that we were under temporary suspension, and we're really pleased with how that's come back now that the plant is operating again.
There's another challenge looming in Mozambique. There's a security situation there at the moment. Have you been affected by that security situation, and how do you overcome any challenges presented?
Yeah, we've not seen any impact on operations at Balama, on logistics, moving people, moving product, inbound or outbound logistics through the period. It's certainly concerning to see that security situation had intensified during the end of last year and the start of this year, but we have very strong relationships in place with the community, the government, and certainly at the moment we're comfortable, obviously having taken that restart decision. We keep a very close eye on things, but we've not seen any impact at this stage.
Sean, mining companies, particularly those in commodities like graphite, appear to be a bit of an inflection point, really, where once they were considered to be one of the bad guys of investment, a dirty polluter, if you like. Now you stand on the cusp of providing materials to the clean energy revolution and electrification of vehicles and transport. Are you seeing more interest from ethical investors, and does that lead to more assessment of your own ESG credentials?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that whether it's ESG focused funds or other funds, investors are incredibly focused on ESG, and that focus level is growing year on year. One of the great attractions when I joined Syrah almost 5 years ago now was that the project, right from its inception, was set up with the highest ESG performance in mind. From a safety, environment, community, and governance perspective, we've been really focused on that right from the start, and we're seeing that differentiation in our operations and the way that we're developing the downstream project as well in the US. Providing us a really strong advantage in our interaction with potential customers. But it is a very, very strong focus and evolving area, and one that we've seen as we implement projects like our solar and battery project at Balama, giving us a really good improving story to continue to tell.
I think that story of a holistic approach to sustainable development, whether it's through a low carbon footprint or new social programs, is a very enticing one for a growing group of investors. Sean, thank you very much for joining us today on Paydirt TV. I know you're in a lockdown Melbourne there at the moment, so I'm glad hopefully we can get the message out to a few other people and you don't feel too alone there. Thanks for joining us, and perhaps we can catch up later in the year to hear about the progress of the ramp up and also the anode facility in the US.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Dominic. Appreciate your time.